In a flat up in Chicago with a keyboard and some tea lives a man with a funnel plan as clever as can be. He ditched his law degree for plugins that go zing. Now WooCommerce dances every time he pulls a string. Hey, evil genius, he's got a plugin for that. Clicks and tricks.
Checking in on the audio, guys. Good morning. Good morning.
He's the WordPress
A minute late start. My apologies. I don't think I have audio for some reason. Just checking. Can you guys double check for me? Should be geared in, but for some reason seems like I'm not. Oh, that's my headset. Okay. I can hear it in my headset. I think I'm good. Hold on. Evil genius, my ass. Every Friday. There it is. Okay, good. Good morning, everybody. Sorry for the late start. I had to go do a quick stretch before we got going here. So I can give you my all. I hope you guys are doing well. Let me get my comments up. John is here. John patiently waiting more than anybody for all the stuff that I'm working on. All right, so let me say today we're going to demonstrate the new workflow. This conversation has come up both in my private emails as well as through some of the consultations this week. And I want to tell everybody I'm really excited for what's happening, but I want to sort of apologize, but not apologize. The scope of what I'm able to deliver, what I really have been building, I'm going to share with you again. I have been negligent, and I apologize, that I had started doing some things like the daily update that I did for 2 days, and then I stopped. And then I promised to have the new bundle, and I didn't get it delivered. But it's not for lack of stuff. The stuff that I've been doing has been just head down trying to solve problems. And I realize I'm not alone because there's many other people with many more talents and resources than I have that have struggled with similar problems. And the issue is that we're all trying to catch a butterfly, a moving target. Most of what I've been working on for the last week and a half has been, how can I most easily create a workflow? How can I most easily bring these tools into the daily practice that you might have for your business or your business idea or your client? And that's why I wanted to talk today about your new AI workflow, because it really is relevant. If one does not think about how you're going to use these tools, they kind of become a moot point, because just having, oh, I don't know, this is super cool. And let me turn off that mic. Just saying, oh, this is super cool, it's AI schmai, doesn't really make anything happen. It's, again, like I've said before, like having an ice cream maker that you can make one flavor of ice cream randomly, and then it never happens again. What I need is a workflow. So today we're going to break it down into 3 steps. And to set this up, I really have to do a little, I'm going to do a share of a particular browser. I think that's going to work best. But I'm always debating, because I actually want to also show the screen. So I'm going to go for the screen today. Kids, this is a little dangerous. I don't have a net, but I'm going to try it. Last time I did this it crashed out StreamYard. So let's see if I managed to do that. Oh, not too bad. Shockingly did not crash it out, but it's also really tiny, I'm sure. So let me see if I can scale this a little. I guess I can't really scale that at all, can I? Okay, let's break this out in a couple of things, because I first have to put you into context. Let's do a little whimsical. And for the whimsical, I think what I can do is make this super giant, so it won't be too bad. Going super giant, kids. That's not bad, actually. Okay, so workflow number 1 is browser, or I should say, let's do website. WP website tools. And I'm going to style this accordingly. I'm going to duplicate this. Number 2 is Agentic Desktop Tools. And number 3 is fully autonomous. Okay, since I can at least show this in a reasonable size, let's first talk about WordPress website tools. What am I referring to? What is the relevance of this? Let me see if I can scale this. That's not too bad. 99% of what we want to do ends up on the website. So for example, if it turns out that what we're talking about is building a tool for editing posts or pages or WooCommerce products, or we're doing marketing automation, or we're doing even the creation of imagery, videos, and so forth, we can do those directly at the website level. But what I want you to understand is, more importantly, these are the things that are going to end up hosted at the website level. So no matter which of these 3 tools we use, website tool, agentic desktop tool, or fully autonomous tools, the thing that we're going to end up with is, and let's make this a different color. Hosted on WordPress box in the cloud. Okay, what am I talking about? I'm saying, and I have to zoom out a little bit of this, I'm saying that no matter what we use to create stuff, it all ends up in the same spot. And then who gets to see it? Well, that is your client or your customer 9 out of 10 times, but it's going to be more reasonably going through their agentic tool. Okay, so let's make a pretty box like this. Site visitors or their AI tools. Okay. And I'm going to turn the arrow around like this. Okay. Now that I got this kind of really funky drawing and I can zoom in a little bit on it, we can get down to business. What I'm saying is, we are ultimately, this is, by the way, the minute launch box right here. We are ultimately trying to build, and let me know if this is completely too small. We are trying to build something that gets the data we need onto the box that we own and control in the sky. That's the thing that, again, if you're a minute launch customer or you're a startup customer, this is the thing that ends up costing, you know, a very small amount of money, $97 a month or $30 a month retail for the minute launch AI version. The reason that we choose to use different tools like a website tool, an agentic tool, fully autonomous, has more to do with the workflow of what we're trying to accomplish. Website tools are awesome when you're working with the data that you're going to store on the website. They're awesome when you're working with the kind of data that comes from the website itself. They're awesome when you're doing things that don't require privacy or security at the level of your own private box at home. In other words, yes, you can have a private WordPress website box, but I'm not, for example, going to take all of my tax records and all of my receipts and necessarily put it on my WordPress website. I am going to put all my image stuff. I probably would put, you know, even medical records and stuff, ironically. But what I'm saying is I'm not necessarily doing bookkeeping on the WordPress website. So I'm not necessarily going to go to the trouble of uploading all my stuff there. I'm just going to do that at my desktop level because I've already, let's say, got Xero or QuickBooks, or I've got some financial program. Similarly, the website-based tools are awesome. And what I've been building, and I'm going to share with you in a minute, is so many ways that you can connect your WordPress website directly to the APIs that will give you the data you need, including Google Calendar, including your Google Drive, including Gmail. But as I've been going down the rabbit hole, trying to figure out how to make this all work as a system, what I realize is probably those things are best if we do it through an agentic desktop tool. And I mean like Claude Desktop. Claude is really good for that, because if I can give you a one-click installation, which I am able to do now, to connect your Claude Desktop to the WordPress box in the sky, everything's groovy. Like, you get the best of all worlds, because Claude Desktop has an enormous amount of people and energy creating better and better things. And I don't want to limit it to just Claude, because Open AI is also doing the same. Perplexity is doing the same. Everybody is making native desktop-based agentic tools. They are also making, as you can kind of see here, browser-based agentic tools. I'm on the beta or whatever, this research preview for Claude. I've got Claude now able to work in my browser, right? So I can say, hey, Claude, what do you see on this page? I don't know if it'll know, but it should be able to see the screen natively. And it just asks me if that's okay. And I say, sure, you can look at that. It takes a screenshot, and then it says, I don't know if you can see that, it's a little small. It says, I could see you're on Whimsical and exactly what's on there. Why is that relevant? Well, that's relevant because imagine how freaking cool it is that I can now have it look at what I'm doing on the screen, and it can actually use that data. For example, I can say, can I have you do something for me? I can say, can you create a HTML5 email that I will post into Fluent CRM as a campaign about what I'm showing on the screen here and why? Okay. Now, I'm not saying, for example, this is good methodology, but what I'm saying is, as a workflow, you have a tool that is now built into the Chrome browser, and this is going to happen with all browsers, that can see what you're doing on the screen, can interact in more direct ways through the API with what you're doing on the screen. And if so, it can then immediately create content and do stuff for you. Think in your real world, think how amazing that could be for saving time and effort, right? So in other words, you have a partner full-time sitting at your desk with you who can see everything you're doing, whether or not it's the Claude Desktop, or in this case, I'm using the Claude extension, whether it's an independent third-party tool. The point is, it can do the kind of stuff that you need. And then when it's given the proper connections, it can, for example, save what we just did as a post inside of the WordPress website, or create an image about it, or put the two of them together, make an image and a post and create the email. So if you're following with me right now, this is one example of how the website tools can work along with the content that you're seeing either on the screen or in the WordPress website to do more stuff. But what's interesting is, especially with Claude actually is unified. So for example, you can see I'm doing Claude here, but this is my Claude account. This very same stuff is going to show up if I switch over to Claude Desktop. So let me pull up Claude Desktop here, and let me see if I can make him a little bigger, a little easier to read. Sorry, kids. I think I can if I just zoom in. There we go. So not really easy for me to read, but easier for you guys to read. Now, what's interesting here is if I just, if I go to chats, and this is interesting. I actually want to see if I'm incorrect about this. Hold on. I may have misspoken. I don't think I have. I'm going to ask Claude. I thought these two were directly connected, but I just may have this connected to a different account. So let me just see. Or maybe because I'm in the beta, it isn't. But under most circumstances, my point was, and I think I'm going to stick to it, that these are going to be unified, which is to say the stuff that I create here. Okay, so it's given me, for example, like this code, and I could ask it a question. I'm going to say, are you connected to my regular Claude account? In other words, can you save this chat inside my normal chat history? Let's see what it tells me. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to have to stand corrected for, at the moment, this is a separate conversation. So in other words, at the moment, this is not part of the unified thing, but it's still quite interesting because at the end of the day, if I were to, for example, take what it created for me, my original point still stands, which is that I was able to have it look at what's on the screen, give me essentially a very simple, I can tell, bit of HTML that I could copy and paste out and do it to an email. But let's go and talk about the same thing at this level. Let's say, for example, I'm still browsing a website or I'm still doing some work for a client, and now I've got Claude Desktop. Well, Claude Desktop has in and of itself these specialized tools that, as we talked about before, allow, let me pull him back up, that allow us to do and see different stuff. So for example, if I make a new chat here and I say, let me make him bigger, as big as he can be. Okay, and if I say to Claude, or if I look in here, what tools do you have? You can probably see that I've got web search, drive search, Gmail search, calendar search, Canva, file system, Claude Desktop 3.0. That's the tool that I'm giving him. And in doing so, he can see and do the same amount of stuff, but now he can compare it. So for example, first of all, he remembers who I am if I ask, hi, Claudio, search your memories. Do you remember me? This is Salvador, right? We talked about this last week. So if he has his memories or he looks at past chats, he can remember me, which is kind of important because you have to prompt him, as I said. And I'm going to say, I'm doing a live broadcast and I want to show people how I might work with you to do some things on my WordPress website and otherwise. Let me ask you first a question. Are you able to see my browser history that I was just on the Whimsical page? Can you see that from where you're at? Okay. So he doesn't exactly know, but he can go, if I tell him to the Whimsical page. So for example, if I was to turn on the browser MCP and show him this page, he has the Chrome browser tools that allow him to see that page. And if I need to verify it, I can just look on here and see whether or not those are on. See, he's got this web search tool, and that would allow him to look for stuff. But what I would probably do more with him would be to take the specific stuff that is involving the WordPress website. So for example, if I wanted him to create some of those images, I have a connection between Claude Desktop and WordPress that gives him certain capabilities. And I'm going to show you how I did that now with the DXT file, but I'm going to say, Claudio, do you see that you're connected to my WordPress website and that you have certain capabilities, for example, to create images or posts or list images? Okay. Now there's about a dozen more capabilities that he's got, but I've only have 4 of them turned on. So for example, I'll say, listen, what I want you to do is research an image for me that you create and then a post around it. I want it to be showing Spence, the evil genius, talking to his audience on his office hours. And I want you to make it photorealistic. And I want you to generate the image and then do a blog post, maybe 3 paragraphs long, about Spencer Foreman and his WordPress audience at WP Launchify, and then use that image as a featured image. Can you do that? Okay. So this is an example of, if I was here, I can give him a lot of topics. I can give him a lot of resources. He has the tools to talk to the website and use the built-in capabilities of, in this case, it's Gemini Flash 2.5. And this is, again, a tool that I'm going to show you how I installed into him. But he's also able to create posts. He's able to research or fix or upload plugins. He's able to do things that you would normally have to go to the website to do. But because he's on my desktop, I could also have him create things locally or do stuff locally, like search my email, search my calendar. Let's ask him for the, can I please have the URL of that post, please? Okay, so he's going to give me the website address where he just created the content. That's an odd answer. So let's see if I go over to this post, if we've got it. I don't know if he's confused me now. So let me ask him, which website were you connected to when you did that? I have two extensions connected, so I think I may need to be more specific or turn one of them off. He's confused as well. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. Let me backtrack for a second because I can tell he's a little confused. I'm a little confused. I'm going to go and show you with the Claude Desktop what I was doing and why this may be a little bit too experimental. I'm going to turn off and remove this experimental 3.0 version of my plugin. If you use Claude Desktop, this is a free plugin. It's a free download from Anthropic. If I do download Claude Desktop, it's Mac or PC. It's free. You need to have, obviously, an account with Anthropic, but the pricing on this, I believe you can get in on your regular plan to use the desktop. I think it's $17 a month, which totally worth it. You may be able to actually use the free version and then just have limited access. But really, I think the Claude Desktop with Pro is probably a better way to go. Now, what I had done, and this is for John and the other folks who've been waiting patiently, what I had done is I had created a new connector here in WordPress. Let me make this a little bigger. The new connector, that is the wrong screen. Let me go here. The new connector, hold on one second. I've shrunken my screen here to the point where I cannot see it. There we go. The new connector is essentially something that allows us to connect the world of WordPress to Claude Desktop and to do it with a one-click extension, which is kind of a big deal because at the end of the day, that's really been the hard part. Right now, to get the two worlds connected has been quite difficult. Hold on one second. I'm having trouble with just seeing my view here. Okay. So this installs as part of the Minute Launch AI system. When you install it, it essentially allows you to add the OpenRouter API key, which is the thing that will connect for this purpose is most of what you want to do except for video creation. You can test to see if that's connected. When you do, you can create a new API key. So you can have multiple people with different capabilities having different levels of access. This is important because this is going to be the way that we essentially allow you to have people working on the site remotely, but not necessarily all having the same capability, right? Like right now we have editor, we have administrator, we might have author. We want to keep that capability designation that roles normally have, but we want to do it through the remote agent. So in this case, that's what I can do with this. And once we create a new API key for whomever, we can create a DXT extension. And the DXT extension is just basically a little bundle of joy that allows the Claude Desktop to connect to the WordPress site instantly. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to go into this code box here, and I'm going to turn off this new 3.0 that I was testing before. I like to fly without a net. And I'm going to turn on this more traditional one here. This is the one I was doing just before, which was the 2.20. This one has more reliability because what I was suggesting at the beginning of today is that it's surprisingly challenging to build Claude connectors, more so than the stuff that I'm actually doing on the WordPress website. Why? I have no idea. I think it's because of the fact that Claude itself is changing so frequently. But in this particular version, same thing. Notice here's some of the stuff that you're going to be able to do with this, right? AI image generation, content management and creation, user access management, advanced plugin, community commenting, analytics, yada, yada, yada. And all that you have to do is this. You click and generate a downloaded extension. Then you go and grab your Claude Desktop. Let me go grab that. And we bring him up into the screen. And then in Claude, open up a chat. And you go into the window tools and you scroll to manage connectors. And then you go to extensions. That's what these things are called. And what we're going to do is just browse for the extension that I just downloaded. In this case, actually, we're going to go advanced settings. And we're going to install the extension. And all you do is go to wherever your downloads are. And you'll see here, I've got Claude Desktop 2. Let's install that. It will tell me, as hopefully you can see here, right? It'll show me all of the capabilities that Spence has built into this plugin, and generating image, create page, install plugins, list users, all these various things that normally you would do only locally. Next, you'll click install, and then you're done. Now, what I usually do is I restart Claude because it seems to work better if I restart it. And let's pull them back up again. I'm struggling because I zoomed out my, there it is. I zoomed out my preview mode of what I'm doing in StreamYard, and I just could not see what I was up to. Sorry about that. Okay, so now I've got Claude back. He should have the capability in the tools. When I check again in chat, minute launch, Claude Desktop. And if I look, I can see here's all of the tools that he's able to use. And it's a significant number of things. What I've tried to do is this. I have tried to build something that allows me to give all of the capabilities as if you were local, browsing, right, like on your website, but directly through Claude. In other words, I was trying to make it, what if we could take it that all of the same stuff that you would normally do if you're on the WordPress website, you could do from your desktop. And the reason being that way you would have all of the same power and control of whatever Claude brings you from your desktop, but still be able to use the tools of WordPress. All right. So let's try this one more time. Bring Claude Desktop back up. And now we'll ask him, good morning, Claudio at Spence. Listen, can you check what tools you have available now to work on my WordPress website? And so again, some of these things are disabled because I'm going to still get them working this weekend, but content management, media management, site administration, file operations, analytics, settings, and so forth. Okay. And he's able to use the tools as if he was on the website, but he can then do the things that we're talking about. Like, would it be correct that you can check my email, see if somebody emailed me, and then you could, for example, create an update on the WordPress website based upon what you found in my email? And he's saying, yes, that's exactly right. Search, check my portfolio, manage the media library, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So going back to this, what we've got is an agentic tool, which you saw how quickly I can install that. I would imagine today, if I'm lucky, but I won't promise, sometime between today and this weekend, I am going to get all of those tools that I listed out fully tested and make sure that they're safe and that they work, so that you can essentially do what I'm going to show you now on the website. You'll be able to do through Claude, and you'll be able to install it as quickly as I showed you to install it there. As far as like this experimental Claude in the Chrome browser, I don't know, but I imagine that they're going to eventually connect that to the same system, which will make that super convenient because, of course, then you'll be able to have some of the vision tools and otherwise. But in the meantime, the Claude Desktop allows you to add tools that can do exactly those kinds of things. And those tools are available through a variety of services. And let me show you one of the services. It's like people have pre-packaged all of these things, and it's called, what's the name? SASB. I forgot the name of the website for a second. It's I'm having a Spencer moment. I'm going to pass on it for a second because I should have bookmarked it. Let me see if I can pull it up. There's a website that has most of these pre-made packages that you can install to give additional capabilities. What's the name of the pre-made package delivery service for Claude Desktop? And cursor to one-click install. I cannot remember the name of the site for some reason. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. Okay, so let me finish with the last part of this. Let's talk about the autonomous. And then I'm going to show you some of the actual features and functionalities that I've got working in terms of the Minute Launch system and how that's going to work on your daily workflow for clients. Mobile access, actually, that's a good question. Right now in mobile, Claude has an iOS app, and they also have, I think, an Android app, but you can also use it through the web browser. The thing that's interesting to me is that when I'm using, for example, let me switch modes here. When I'm using my Claude mobile, I can talk to him and have him do stuff. I actually think OpenAI has a better interface. All of the tools that I've created for the WordPress site are mobile enabled so that you can talk to them. What I like to say is if you have things that are verbal, if you have things that are questions, if you have things that are instructive, like do this, do that, I like to talk. I think it's much faster. I use this whisper typing, but all of the stuff I'm building will be mobile friendly. And I'm going to show you in a second. This is this is like the Claude Desktop that I've built into Minute Launch that I'm going to show you in a second too. Okay, so we're going to come to it. But if I went, like, for example, right now, and I took my iPhone and I typed Claude, this is actually quite useful because he does, you can kind of see it, he has the same interface. And I can typity type, but what I would usually do is this. I'll say something, for example, like, and this part I think is annoying. Unlike OpenAI, they've got a button I got to press, and I never figure out what to do. It says, tap anywhere to send. So I have to, hey, Claude, it's Spence. Can you record this message that I'm giving you and turn it into a text? And okay, so I got to click. I always get confused about this.
I can hear that it's confusing for you. These voice interfaces can definitely be tricky to figure out at first.
Right.
Does it work better once you tap?
Well, I'm kind of confused, Claude, because I don't know with you if I have to tap and hold or if I just tap and then you listen to me. I think what happens is I have to talk to it. It records me silently, and then I can send it.
Be able to tap once and then start speaking. No need to hold down anything. The interface should start listening after that single tap.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, let's see, for example, just because I'm not really thrilled with that interface, let's see, for example, if that ended up inside of my Claude Desktop. I think it might have, but I'm not sure. Right. So to answer John's question, I think these are all unified. If you're using a particular AI agent and you're using it through their interface, it is going to save a history of your chats. If you are using Minute Launch, I am achieving a similar thing, and I'll show you in the back end, where either through a vector database or locally, I have every single thing that you ever asked it stored and saved so that it can be used later. And this is really important to me because this is really the essence of where we started this whole adventure. Is I started out with like a chat interface, and I thought that this was all going to be the whole tool, but then I realized over time it's going to be something else. So for example, one of the cool things that we can do here, and I'm not sure if I was just updating this actually before the show started, is that we can actually generate WordPress images. We can do research. And just like if we had Claude Desktop, the box that somebody owns and controls, whether it's your box or the client who's connected to you's box, we can do what we want, and it can save it and store it and do it in the future. So let's, for example, I had just made a WordPress plugin, right? Let's clear the chat and do a similar experience if we're working directly on the WordPress website. I can say things like, I would like you to create a single file WordPress plugin, and I want you to display it inside the code canvas. This plugin should make a rotating banner at the top of the screen that says, hello, everybody at the office hours. And it should flash the colors and do cool stuff. Be creative. Make sure you give me the file here in a ready to use format for WordPress. Okay. You don't have to worry about all those words. One of the things that I'm building will be these templates that will, for example, that was the next iteration. I'll show you if I can actually get it live. It'll just have a button that says make a plugin. So right now I'm giving it a little more words, but what'll happen is this is on Minute Launch. This AI chat is connected to the same Claude Sonnet 4 or whichever model you want. It can answer the questions. It could give you details about the site. It can do editing. It can do image creation, all the cool stuff that Claude Desktop can do, but you're just interacting with it here locally, right? And so here's got like, it created a cool plugin, and I can download that plugin. Now I have on my desktop here, I'm using local WordPress. This is a local version of WordPress. Let's see what that plugin does. And obviously there's a ton of room for this stuff to get better and easier and, you know, more improved. But this is what was causing me to spend so much energy and time, is to try to figure out all of these metaphors, right? So, you know, so I've got, obviously this is not a well thought out demonstration of the plugin, but you can see that the creation process of a plugin is pretty straightforward, and it's going to be something that will be able to be done. But more importantly is that if I go back here, and I was telling you how we save and store all of this, there will be a history of everything that was created. And that's important because this will be useful for, I think, both the site creator. It'll be useful for the people who are the clients of the site creator, that everything that was ever stored can be used as context or can be used for further knowledge about the products, about the services, about whatever. Okay, let's also go a step further with this. Let's clear the chat. And before I actually try to install the new version of this, I want to show you like the image creation, right? So with the image creation, we can have it help us make better stuff, right? When I did the videos, I showed how we created a tool that allowed the AI to create better prompts with the things that we can choose from. Similarly here, for a lot of the features and functions, I want to make it possible for the AI to help you manage and do more with the content of your site for running the business. Like look into who is the best customer and what was the last thing they bought and did they have an email sent to them. I don't think there's many users on this site, but can you list 2 users on the site for me? And again, I'm always breaking these things, so some of the functions may or may not work. We'll see. Okay, so it lists me and it lists my pseudonym, right? And I can also say, can you list the last 3 posts on the site? All of this stuff was originally very rudimentary. Now it's pretty mature. But just like if I was working with the Claude Desktop, I can actually interact with this on the website. And it's not like better or worse because I can do this mobile as well. It's just different. And this allows me to do cooler stuff, though. I can say, generate an amazing new prompt and then submit it to create an image with the AI image creator. I want it to be of a 58-year-old guy sitting at his computer on a Zoom call with a bunch of people, and he looks very happy to be there. Okay. Improve the prompt, then submit the prompt and get back the image here and show me the image. Okay. So this is the kind of stuff that you're not necessarily going to have to do all the time, but you're going to get good at. And there are going to be template features in this that will allow you to say, save what I liked or save the scene or do whatever. And I've shown you that last time with the video stuff. But the point I'm making is that the AI interface here, the workflow, is going to be verbal. This is a big difference. Notice for none of the stuff that I've done right now, have I bothered to even go into the dashboard anymore. I will have the same stuff that we have got available for you to use, but it's not going to be necessary to really do that much anymore. So it just created this image as fast as that. It put it in the media library. You know, because I've shown you this a billion times already, that we can further iterate on this, just continuing the conversation, right? And say, that guy's awesome. He's a little older. Can you make him a little younger looking? And then we could even put a picture of me in there from my Neil Diamond album covers. Make him look more like the guy in the attached picture. Okay. So these are the kind of things that, as far as a workflow is concerned, whether it be for you or for the client, you're going to be just doing instruction, and the things are going to be connected in a coherent way so that the assets are always available to you, whether or not you're on your desktop or whether you're in your machine. That's not bad. I would go with that. That's not, I mean, he's hairier than me, but that's reasonable. And you're not going to have to worry about like which interface you're in, because for the most part, you'll be able to access this stuff no matter what. If I went back over to Claude and said, hey, Claude, can you go to my WordPress website and see the last image that was created? Claudio, really? I'm going to switch tools one more time because this experimental tool still is no bueno. I'm going to install the reliable image tool. So what I'm going to do here is, just to demonstrate this, I'm going to go to what was my bulletproof original version of this. And let's install this one time, just like I did the other one. So with this one, I go to Settings, Claude Desktop Images. I install the DXT file. And again, you can have fun with tools, because the way I'm doing it this way, they're all self-contained. You don't have to set up a server on your website or any of that other really confusing stuff. Instead, all you need to do is just literally select a file like a plugin and install it. So here I'm going to put in the reliable image generator. This was the original version of this that I knew had all of the capabilities functioning. And now if I go here, I'll go, oops, hey, Claudio, can you check my website? What was the last image I generated? Hey, Claudio, it's Spence. Can you go to my website and check what was the last image I generated? See, he sees the Claude image generator. Let's see if that's right. And let's see if we can look at it. Okay, that is correct, but that's not the one I want him to look at. I'm going to be more specific. I'm going to say, oh, I know what the problem is. The problem is that's actually correct. He's on, I created the other one on Minute Launch AI voice. That's why he can't see that. So let's actually, by the way, let's use him to generate the same image, but we're going to kind of prove a point here, right? So what's nice is I have the provenance of this. I'm going to go over and use Claude as a desktop to prove the point. I'm going to say, hey, Claudio, can you make a new image for me using the image generation capabilities and then save it on my website in the media library? And then I'll give him this prompt and let's see what he does. And so concept-wise, what we're doing is either way, it's going to end up on the box in WordPress, but I'm showing you, first I did it from the AI chat, or I did it from the media tool itself on the website. Now I'm recreating the same thing by using Claude through the desktop. And now he's created, let's see what he comes up with. It's probably going to be very similar. Let me copy this link out, put it on the browser up top. So he came up with this. And not too bad. I like this one a little better. But the point I'm saying is we now have demonstrated, for example, two kind of otherwise like pain in the ass problems, which was how is it that we can create content like posts or emails or search your mail and do stuff and get it into a place where we can use it for other purposes or that we can get to it in the future. Now, it will be true that a lot of the stuff that we create will be existing inside of what we call artifacts inside of whatever LLM we're using. But for long-term storage, for long-term security, for long-term ownership and control, having it in a box for yourself or your client is going to be the workflow. I feel like this is the model that is going to work best. And we've seen this in the past because like, just think of Dropbox, think of iCloud, think of iTunes, think of anything where, you know, you or your family members, your business clients have had stuff. They're all going to keep it in a centralized location. And I think that's one of the primary purposes of having the interface in the box is that it can be made very fun, very easy. But if I go here and this is my version, I can just go to the media library as a client and I'll probably improve this interface as well. And look, I can have all the fun in the world. I was doing some Neil Diamond cover art before. I can have all the fun in the world with making stuff and doing stuff inside of my private library and then iterate upon that, save it, share it, and so forth. But more importantly, I can also use that for making content, right? So whether I cross-site purpose it or whether I do it here, I have something that is in my media hub that is available publicly. It can be seen, again, optimized through a CDN around the world. And I don't have to worry about where it exists because it's always going to be in my box. All right, let's talk about a minute the fully autonomous, because there are other things I want to show you inside of the tool set that I've been putting together and building. But the fully autonomous is, imagine we get to the point, and I don't think it's too far off, where you can really trust the process. I've shown you Fernando, and Fernando is pretty reliable when it comes to certain things. Not entirely, but if I bring up Fernando, say hello to everybody kind of thing. Fernando has a process of checking the plugins. If I want, he has a process of checking my mail, telling me what's important. At some point or another, you and I are going to have Fernandos built into our various tools and our devices, and we're going to be able to trust them to do various things for us, including contacting people, responding to email. I think one of the first places that will work will be for obviously booking and checking calendars. I think email might be a good one, although you got to be a little concerned about the tone he takes. But for example, good morning, Fernando. We've seen me talk to him before. He knows me better than Claude does because he doesn't usually have to be prompted. We'll see. And by the way, his brain here is, I'm going to set him to Claude 4 Sonnet, so he's a little smarter. See, when I switched browser types and he kind of lost his mind because remember that metaphor I told you last week? If you're using the Waffle House metaphor, If you're using the same tool with the same memory set, with the same personalities, you're going to get a different type of response than if you try to use a different AI model that doesn't have a personality. Claude Sonnet 4 has a personality that's friendly and warm and inviting, funny, and so forth. ChatGPT 5 is like a research scientist, and it just, good morning. What can I do for you? Okay. Okay. Bueno, Fernando, do you remember me? This is Spence. Check your memories. Okay. So now if I talk to him here, he should be more like the guy that I know. And I'm going to let him run his memories unsupervised. But the point is, as far as autonomous stuff, Fernando has been given capabilities that if I wanted to, I could probably, there he goes. So now he's full personality. I could tell him to do stuff for me like, hey, listen, it's been a while. Can you give me an update report on the plugin list? You go into the Spence folder and check which plugins are there and give me the URL so I can show that on the screen. So one of the tasks that I've given him, which is kind of fully autonomous because it doesn't involve dealing with human beings, is to go out and check the plugins in the software bundle and see whether or not there's been any changes in the change log. That was really kind of a pain in the ass. And in doing so, what he's able to do is essentially say, here's a report. I've checked against all of the items in the report, and all of these things are up to date. They're not up to date, and so on and so forth. And I've had him give me, or I asked him for a special folder called Spence, and in it there is a web page, which I think this is the page. So I'm going to copy the path, and I'll just show you what this page looks like. And this is the plugin report. It makes it easier for me to see what plugins need updates, when they've last been checked, so on and so forth. And instead of me literally going through 110 plugins, I can very quickly have him finish doing the work. This is a good example of autonomous tools. I can have him check my calendar. I can have him check my email. I think I'm supposed to play pickleball today, right? I can have him send an email on behalf of me. So sorry, that's Claude. Let's go back to Fernando. Come here, Fernando. Okay. So he's busy checking the plugins, telling me which things need updates, which things have not needed updates, so on and so forth. But he could also, for example, check my email, I believe. Hold on, let me check, because let me see if I have his tool enabled. Should. And these are the tools that I give him, right? These are things I had turned it off. That's why I'm checking. I'd given him tools to check my email. I had turned some of them off while he was asleep just to make sure. And I'm just turning them back on, right? Making sure that he can see them. They will go green when he can see them. And if that's the case, then he will be able to check my email, make a new email for me, and so forth. Let's see if he recognizes that. Fernando, are you able to check my calendar today on Calendly and see whether or not I have any pickleball scheduled? And that's not calendar, it's my calendar. Let's see if he can find my pickleball game at 3:30. Okay, and so he found it, right? And I'm playing at 3:30, Danny Cuniff. And if I wanted to, I could say, have him send a text message. I could have him say, send an email to my buddies. John asks, can Perplexity research results be made available for Claude to use? That's a good question. So here's what's interesting. Perplexity is a different flavor. They have their own AI. They have their own browser. It's quite good for doing projects, and they have this thing called Spaces, which is sort of like projects. They also have the ability to make research pages. What you can do, John, I'm pretty sure, is ask it to give you the results so that you can import it to Claude either directly or as an MCP. So let's see, for example, if I went just new thread, high perplexity at Spence. Can you tell me anything about Spencer Foreman at wplaunchify.com? What I would do is ask it if it can give you something that you can share with Claude Desktop, and it will probably just give you a copy paste file. But I think what you're asking about is more if it has an MCP. And for that, you would need a bridge. You would need a tool in between that would turn this into something that can essentially be grabbed independently. And if we go to the share option, let's see what options it just says link. That's one thing. And then I don't use Perplexity that much. I'm not sure. I think this is, that's a pro search. View sources. Let's see what happens. If I'm going to say to it, I want to share this with Claude Desktop. Can you give it to me in a format that's easy for me to give you, give all this information? Claude. I said, I mean an MCP or an LLM text. So notice that it changed the format and it gives you a copy paste, which I think is useful. So for example, if we just did that, obviously manually you can do this. And then you could say, my friend at Perplexity had this to give to you. Here it is. Okay. And what that does is it gives the information from Perplexity in a way that Claude knows about. And now it knows enough about it and you can use it in Claude. As far as a bridge, let's ask Claude. Hey, Claude, is there any pre-made bridge that allows Perplexity to immediately share data with you at Claude Desktop, like an MCP or otherwise? So I'm going to show you this in the diagram while he's looking. Imagine that you've got data that you've created through Agentic Tools, and whether you host it on the cloud or not, you want to share it with some other Agentic tool. Let's make another box here. Let's say we've got Perplexity. Perplexity we're going to put in blue. Okay. Perplexity can talk with Claude either through these sort of manual methods. I'm going to go around the back here. Either through these manual methods or through an MCP. And an MCP requires you to set something up. And that's one of the reasons that, quite honestly, I like having the WordPress box. I can very easily set up connectivity between Perplexity's desktop tool as much as Claude Desktop and have it talk to the box. So let's do an arrow here. These can all talk to each other. They just need to have the proper MCP connections. And I'll put a little note on this and I'll share this with you guys. MCP, arrows both ways. Okay. So any device that has an LLM associated to it can talk to any other device using the protocol of MCP, which is really super cool. It's like an API that's dynamic. What's interesting is I do not know, I think it does. Do you have a desktop agentic tool? Perplexity is locked up here. Hold on. I'm not sure why. I think might have just been my browser might be a little slow. Let me go back to Perplexity. Do you have a desktop agentic tool for Perplexity? One of the things, Comet, right? The Comet browser. I tried it. I wasn't a big fan of this. One of the things I'm going to say is that I don't know that you have to love Claude or that you have to love OpenAI. I don't really care. I think the thing to understand is these all are going in the same direction, which is all the browsers, all of the devices, all of the operating systems, all of the tools, everything is going to be AI enabled, and they're going to talk through the same metaphor of having MCP. And I want to show you a couple of the things that I was working on that are going to be part of this bundle because I think it's useful. First of all, somebody was asking, Lloyd actually, and he may be here now, was asking about, with the Spence style and how are we doing all of that? All of these same capabilities have been built into the set of core features. And what I found is going to be probably the best way to deliver this is, like I said last Friday, if I just name each of these things as the utility that they are, right? Style, videos, images, products, marketing. I think if I just have the base thing with those functionalities and those naming metaphors, it's going to be easier for everybody to understand. Here's why. If I go into the flow video, which I spent a lot of time on in the last week, the reason that I spent a lot of time on this is because I felt like this is something that has potentially the most use case for the most number of people in addition to the photo stuff. As I'm saying it, I'm saying if I turned it off, hold on. I have to go over and turn it back on. Because we have a bug in there. Let's do back. I was debugging that as we were talking last time. Let me paste in here and see if this new version sticks. And then I'll show you what I was doing with this was just adding the new capabilities to work with Claude Desktop to do the remote creation stuff. And in doing so, I feel like if I just make videos, this version is crashed. So I'm going to go to an earlier version. It's going to make it much easier for you guys, as I think for me as well, to make use of the capabilities. So let me show you an example. Let me see if this version goes without crashing. Yes. Okay. Whenever I push the edge with new features, I always get a bug in there. Okay. And now with the Flow Video Creator, what I was doing was setting it up so that you can, create remotely from Claude or otherwise. And there's a bunch of settings for that. But once you created something, I wanted to be able to enhance it. This isn't the version that I want, but this is fine. So in other words, whether I do this remotely or not, if I create a video with a prompt, I want to be able to make sure the title and the thumbnail, everything is exactly right. But more importantly, I want this to end up in the media library, right? Because that's where all my goodies are. So here, for example, is a video that I had made about my childhood, right? On the Schwinn Stingray bike, jumping over my friends. And I can have it with the capability. Let me make this a little bigger for you guys. I have it with the capability so I can remake the thumbnail, remake the title. Notice the title is 70 Stingray Jump, right? I can use the AI to improve that. And then it's in my media library, along with maybe even a cooler image. Although I got to be honest, this image really brings back memories, right? There's an e-bike ban in effect in my town of Highland Park now, and I try to remind people this was my childhood. So I'm going to paste that into the chat for fun, for future reference. Okay, so let's, for example, say that with the video, if I wanted to create with Claude or I wanted to create local, I would probably use one of the tools that Claude Desktop or Claude browser provided. And I've made this into a plugin, but it's you saw me do this last week, so I won't bore you. It's the video generator, right? So it allows you to create these really complex prompts that will create really amazing outcomes. But you would use it, let's say at your desktop, you'd use it as part of the tool locally. And when you did, you would be able to create a video that's stored in your video library that you can then enhance or use with other stuff. That's the basic workflow. Let me refresh this page. Come on, Claude, you can load. Maybe I'll do it this way. I'll go through Claude. All right, come on. There it is. So if I, for example, go to Minute Launch Production Script Generator, this is a plugin, but I can use this to create any number of really cool scripts with all kinds of things that would be very difficult for a normal person to do. But with this, are quite easy, right? What's the scene? What's the subjects? What's the action? What's the audio? What's the visual? And then I could just copy that out. And I'll just randomly copy that out and see whether or not I can use that here in the prompt. So I'm going to go get to the right screen, Spence. There we go. I'm going to go and create a new video. By the way, you guys have probably figured out it will be much easier for me when I've just put all this into the interface. Right now I have like 37 tools all just sitting around. But what happens is, whether this is done remotely through Claude or this is done directly, this will create the video. John has another question. Is Fluent Snippets? Fluent Snippets I've deprecated. The problem is not anything to do with Rocket per se, but on a site-by-site basis, you can still use Fluent Snippets, but I've included instead in WP Launchify software bundle, I've included a new thing, Codebox, instead. So if you look here for WP Codebox, that is what will probably work instead. Otherwise, what has to happen is they have to give an exception to their firewall most of the time with Fluent Snippets. And I don't know what it is. Something about the way Fluent Snippets started doing their storage was tripping off the CDN. And so once that happens, it just became annoying. I asked them whether they would put a white list on it, and they said no. So rather than fighting it, I'm going to use Codebox. And you can see Codebox actually has some better capabilities, including it has built-in revisions. It has an interface that you can make dark mode, light mode. You can generate plugins. So for better or worse, Fluent Snippets is probably going to be deprecated in my world in favor of Codebox. But one of the things I want you to understand is we don't even need to worry about that, because what I'm going to have for you guys is the ability to just manage and host the snippets directly, like we were just talking about. If I was using, let me close a couple windows. If I was using the chat and I either directly or otherwise had it write a plugin, the code canvas for any particular piece of code will not only have the ability to download it, but it'll also have the ability to save as a functional plugin. So in other words, turn this into a working plugin, which I think is ultimately what most of you guys are going to want to do, right? You're going to need the chat with the AI intelligence to manage what you create as single file WordPress plugins. And in a safe environment that works with everything here, it'll have the intelligence wrapped around it. Let's just finish this one example of a video creation, and I'll show you the rest of that process. So when this video is done, notice it says video ready, and I can just go edit it. And this is the fun part, because it comes out like this with whatever that weird script was, right? But here's where the fun is. I could just click on it. Notice it says ML video. I mean, what the hell is that? Let's just improve it. So it gives it a thumbnail that makes sense, and it gives it a better title. And let's see what it comes up with. It may or may not come up with a good one, because I'm not sure what this weird stuff underneath, whether that's actually, yeah. This is kind of a good example of kind of weird crap in and weird crap out, because it doesn't know what to look for. So it's just sort of, but it will improve the thumbnail. The good news is that it will take this and it will make a representative image that will then show up in the media library. And that's, to me, the most important thing, so that we've got a situation like this where now we've got a thumbnail. And if you browse your media library, you can actually see visually what the video is. And it has a way that you can use that for promotion. Like if you're doing YouTube videos, you're doing email, you don't have to worry about the fact that normally videos don't have a thumbnail. In this case, it's already good to go. All right, let me round off here because I feel like I'm losing the little momentum that I have today. Let me just sort of say in general, number one, I think I have about 20 to 22 key components, and I can list them out or show you. But if you think of like that Model 1 iPhone, these components are going to be delivered, and I promise I'm going to update everybody for sure this weekend, because I've been just working so hard on this. I have to move forward. They're all going to be core components. So image, video, post editing, plugin management, plugin creation, scheduling, research. I've broken them down into their fundamentals, and they will have like skeuomorphic icons. So the base minute launch bundle on the $30 a month client plan will be almost a no-brainer for anybody to have their clients use or them to use. And it has the built-in monetization of $5 a month, $50 a year. The next step up, the full minute launch startup, just includes the two things of the software, which is, you know, the regular WordPress software, and unlimited email help from me. I have a good enough delivery mechanism. I have a good enough interface. I have a good enough feeling that I've got this metaphor worked out that I can finally give it to you guys with the benefit of the agentic connection. Excuse me. The agentic connection is the Claude Desktop part. And that was something that was really a struggle. And I realize I'm not alone, like I said, because I think right now I'm one of the few people, if only people, who have made something one-click simple. All the other examples of it, there's this guy at Meow Apps, and there's Vicus at InstaWP. They've all done a variety of different MCP kind of connections. They all require an infinite amount of cocking around. You have to install Python and Node.js, and you have to make a manifest, and you have to install stuff on your local machine. It's just crazy. I have made it, as I showed here, one-click simple for most people. And this connector between the WordPress website and Claude Desktop, I think, is going to make it possible for me to move on to the next phase of things, which is to start doing cool stuff, teaching cool stuff, allowing you guys to both build your own apps as well as submit them to the list. I also want to apologize a little, but sorry, not sorry. I didn't think that part was going to take me 2 weeks. I didn't think the Claude Desktop and the other things was going to take me 2 weeks. But the benefit of me doing that was that I learned so much, and I interacted with a lot of clients and other live websites who are actually doing work with these things, that I think I ended up with what will be a better result. So if you indulge me, especially you, John, what I hope to have is like the final, this is the alpha, maybe beta 1 version of the minute launch AI. And it will be easy enough with a sales page and instructions for you or your clients to understand. And at that point, we move into the phase of, now we can build cool stuff. Now we can do cool stuff, because all this stuff has all existed on my desktop. It's all existed in sort of Spence doing snippets of demonstrations here and there. But what can I say? This is a brave new world. And in WordPress, at least, I know I'm at the cutting edge, because I haven't seen anybody else doing more. They just do more technical, or they do a little bit here and a little bit there. But as a comprehensive system, I think this is going to be unique, and I'm very excited about it. So I want to thank you guys for hanging with me. At the same time, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that one of the core things that I offer to folks, not necessarily you guys, is the ability to understand how to run your WordPress business in general. And one of the things that I offer is, especially the 97 a month, is the stability of a system that any business can run off of, with all the software, the support, the help, the hosting. And so I'm going to likely use myself as a use case to show you how I can get more of that type of business, and that you might be able to do the same while also having the allure of this new AI stuff. All right, that's it. I feel like I've run out of steam and I've gone an hour and 20 minutes. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I will keep in touch. And hopefully for coming up into this new week, I'm going to have a full package ready to go with the exciting sort of read it for yourself, watch it for yourself documentation that will make it a lot easier. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.